is the question that I wish all new movie reviewers would ask. Hi, Sean. Any advice for increasing vocabulary when reviewing films? I started committing to writing a review for at least one movie per week, but I struggle to find different ways to say similar things. This is the question that I wish all new movie reviewers would ask, because this is it right here. This is at the heart of what I feel my role really is, to take ideas that are in my head and put them out in the world in a way that is useful. So whether I'm able to articulate an experience that me and you shared, and so I put my feelings, but as well as your feelings, into words, that's a huge win. Or if I'm able to take my experience and put it out there, so someone that had a totally different experience understands better what other people experienced with the movie. And all of that comes down to vocabulary. And the more words you have access to, the more descriptors you have, the better language of cinema that you have, the better job you can take an idea out of your head and describe it. With specificity.
There's a interesting quote from Wicken Stein, Ludwig Wicken Stein, and he says, "The limits of my language mean the limits of my world." So you could see a richer vocabulary means a richer life. The more words that you have in your arsenal, the more precisely you can describe the thing which is in your head. The more frictionlessly you can take ideas from your brain to your mouth, your fingertips, or the end of a pencil, the more accurately you're going to be able to put that out into the world.
There's a joke in The Office where Andy Bernard said, "I could be an art critic. Look at this. This art is good. This art is bad."
Or an art critic. "That painting is bad."
And it's the sort of thing that's the classic example of a bad critic. They're not saying anything, they just know whether they like it or not, so all they can say is good or bad. Good film critics, good art critics, music critics have the ability to dive in deep and have something to say. So how do you expand your vocabulary? So big ones for me was reading books on screenwriting. And so that kind of give you the language of scripts, the language that is used by the storytellers to describe the stories. And so, it's Sid Fields written some books, Save the Cat. Like Save the Cat as a book, like the book is written very arrogantly, like this is the formula to write a movie. And it's from the guy that wrote the movie Blank Check, and he criticizes the movie or script from Memento. Insanity. But it's a book that gives you language to describe these different beats and things that happen in a film. That's very useful. It gives you essentially the blockbuster template. And that's great language to have when discussing films. I listened to the podcast Script Notes. It is Craig Mazin, who did Last of Us and Chernobyl, as well as John August, who's written a number of Tim Burton movies, just talking about movies. They talk about scripts, they talk about character arcs, they talk about the business of being a screenwriter. And that's professionals talking about the craft, gives you the language of the craft. Watch a lot of these interviews. There's so many things on YouTube that you can watch, but look up ones of classic director on directing. How this director directs. Things like that get into the specific process of directing, and them giving interviews talking about what they do and how they perceive of things. And so you see how they talk about movies in angles and things like that. And then the last one is simply read and watch a lot of movie reviews that are very different from what you would normally watch or view. If you just watch a lot of me and you're trying to get started and I'm your one point of reference, well, you already have my language. That's not useful. Find someone that talks about movies in a very different way, that's interested. Like, I don't talk about cinematography a lot. Find someone that talks about cinematography a lot. Find someone that talks about, social justice or whatever, like that, in a way that's not the way that you normally think about that. And the way that they evaluate films and what they catch that you don't normally catch, and the language that they use when discussing that. So just find different people that talk about movies from all the different angles, the different perspectives, what's the language that they use? On my phone, I literally have a note called Film Critic Growth Phrases and stuff like that. And as I listen to different people talk about movies, I just listen for phrases that they articulated a criticism really well. They articulated a praise really well. And I just kind of write notes down. And I just have all these different phrases. And I started the note 5-6 years ago. I'm not great at updating it, but if you update it once a month for several years, you start to have a lot of different phrases in there. And it comes in batches where you actively try to grow, and just go watch right now go watch 10 different people's review of the same movie. And go look for someone that looks like they're 18, someone that looks like they're 60, raised, all the different things. Look, and 10 different people talking about the same movie, in a movie that there's something to say about it. Oppenheimer or whatever, that like a lot of people are, Barbie. And what's the language that all these different people are using? What's the different perspective that they bring? And write as many notes as you can. So that's the way that I think about a lot of that. But this is exactly what most people that review movies on YouTube, that want to start as a hobby, or on Letterboxd, TikTok, or whatever, this is the question they're not asking, that the thing that would improve what they're doing the most. Just, you dedicate a month where every day you actively try to get better with your vocabulary for cinema. You learn 30 lessons, 30 new phrases, and actively apply that to whatever you're working on that week. You will get much better and expand your ability to take ideas out of your head and put them into a review.